Hi, friends. Susan Blackwell from the Spark File here to let you know that the doors are open for the Spark File Illume, a 9-month group creativity coaching mastermind that invites you to be the Chief Creative Officer and Chief Marketing Officer of your creativity. But what does that mean? That means in 9 months in Illume, you will clarify and advance your big creative goals and learn how to effectively share your work with the world. Now, if you're listening to this and you're an experienced creative or an accomplished professional who seeks a space where it is safe to attempt something you've never tried before, or complete a big creative project, or take your work to the next level and acquire the skills needed to share your creative work with the world, Illume might be right for you. We are calling in emotionally intelligent, high-functioning creatives who are ready to level up. You can find out more by going to thesparkfile.com/Illume, but do it now to find out if Illume is right for you and to save with early bird discounts. That's thesparkfile.com/Illume. Take a leap, take a risk. Go to thesparkfile.com/Illume and join us for Illume. Hey, everybody, this is part 2 of our conversation with Zachary Quinto.
If you haven't listened to part 1, you might want to go back and listen to it.
Or not.
You do you.
But please do enjoy the show.
The Sparkfile podcast may contain profanity and other adult content.
Please use your discretion.
When I bump into something that inspires me, I dump it in my spark file. Could be something that I want to make or how I want to be. I pump it in my spark file. I jump into my spark file. Let's open up the spark file.
Here's a question for you. When you reflect on what you have created, made so far, participated in the making of, to this point in your life, what are you most proud of?
The Glass Menagerie.
Can you trace it back? What was the initial spark for you with that production? Or with the Glass Menagerie, actually, because you may have been invested in that material.
No, I was not.
You weren't?
No.
Really?
So how did it come to you?
It was a call that I got. I mean, I made it very clear. So in 2010, I mean, all of the theater that I've done in New York has been seminal to me on some level or another. My first production in New York was the Angels in America that I did at the Signature Theater in 2010.
I saw that. You were so good.
And that was a moment for me.
A lot of dingers in that.
A lot of dingers. Yeah, you love to talk about our dingers.
How could you not?
But
do you remember the dingers in that show? Fondly.
But that for me was a moment when I had made a real declaration that I wanted to do more theater. I'd never done a play in New York, and that was so. When I graduated from Carnegie, so we sort of I went to Carnegie Mellon I did that. It all worked out. I went to Carnegie Mellon, studied musical theater, graduated in 1999, and I moved right to LA. Kind of unexpectedly and inadvertently moved to LA because a lot of people told me I should.
Like you got a musical theater degree and then said, I'm headed out.
But I did the showcase at the end of our time at Carnegie Mellon with the actors, not the musical theater students. So I made a choice that I didn't want to pursue musical theater like for myself.
You have a very sophisticated sense of your, I feel like my career trajectory has just been sort of like bumping along. You like have a real personal vision or something.
I just knew that I wanted to be seen as an actor, not as a musical theater performer, because I also, frankly, I wasn't as good as my classmates at singing. You know, I was a better actor than I was a singer, and I honored that in myself.
And when you go to Carnegie Mellon, some of those singers are world class,
next level, amazing. My whole class, we had a really talented class. There were 11 of us in the musical theater program, and I was probably like the maybe 9th best singer, or 10th best singer. Like I was not like one of the top voices in my class, but but
you were feeling yourself as an actor.
And so I felt like I wanted to kind of honor that, and so I chose that. And so there was a lot more interest in me in LA, which was surprising. But I was like, I never want to live in LA. And then people were like, you should come to LA. You should be on a sitcom. Was the reaction that I got when I got out of school.
You were like,
I was super skinny, and I had
actor.
I was like, please, like, tell me whatever the fuck you want me to do. I had super skinny and like really spiky hair, and I did this monologue from Pounding Nails on the Floor with My Forehead by Eric Bogosian, and I did a scene from This Is Our Youth, and I think people were like, they saw me more in that vein, and so I came to LA. And I started this path for myself in LA. So it wasn't until years later, after I had sort of achieved a level of success in LA, that I was like, I need to now go back to the thing that I always envisioned for myself, which was theater. And so Angels was the first thing. I auditioned for that, and I got it, and I did it. And yeah, what was the point of that? Because you asked me a question about...
I wanted to know where the spark from the Glass Menagerie, where it came to you first.
So when I did Angels in America, I said, okay, now that I've done my first play in New York, it's my goal to do a play here at least every other season. That was like a promise.
Damn your
that I
clarity.
made to myself.
Yes,
Again with the goddamn
clarity.
clarity in you.
So when the time came after Angels in America, the time came for me to be like, okay, like what's my play going to be now this season? And my agent called me up and said, they're doing a production of The Glass Menagerie at ART in Cambridge. And there's no guarantee as to whether or not it'll have life beyond that, but it's with Cherry Jones. And John Tiffany's directing it. And I was like, okay. I was like, but The Glass Menagerie, that old thing, like, ugh.
That dusty old
And
chestnut.
I remember I was reading it. I was on a plane, and I like read the play, and I was like, "What is this?" I mean, I'd read it in college, but like,
Wait, before you started reading it, or when you were reading it?
After I finished it, I was like, "What's this?
Really?
Where's the life in this old thing?"
You're kidding me. So no sparks yet.
still no
No
sparks.
sparks. When will the
not
sparks show
not
up?
to the material. And then I said, but this John Tiffany is really
Yeah,
an interesting
special.
character. I hadn't seen Blackwatch, but everybody was like, Blackwatch. And of course, Cherry was a spark because I had known Cherry. She's obviously a famous alumna of Carnegie Mellon. And, there's that. She's the kind of, so then I had a video chat with John Tiffany. And by the end of the video chat, I said, I'll do it.
Because of his
Because
spark.
of him, just because
Like
of
his
him.
vision.
Interesting.
Yeah. I was
There
like,
was the
okay,
spark. So
bring
the
me on.
spark was John
Oh
Tiffany.
yeah, he's a tinderbox of sparks.
What could you remember anything specific from that conversation that you were like, I'm in?
It was his uncertainty about what it would be. He was very honest about, and this is how he works, which is, I don't know yet, but I want to find out. And the curiosity and the confidence and the kind of magnetism of that was like unavoidable. It was so, the charisma of it and the
that is so
power of
goddamn interesting.
It is. And to have people hear you say that you saw uncertainty as a positive and as a spark, because I think so many people are like, all these things happen, they appear as a little package wrapped up in a bow, and it all makes sense and it's perfect, and you follow this little straight line, and if it seems uncertain, I'm not going to do it.
No, I crave uncertainty of creativity. I think it's in that experience, it was like, well, I mean, there's nothing to lose, you know what I mean? We're going to go do this play for 3 months in Cambridge and sort of see what happens with it. And like, why not?
I've never heard somebody articulate that in quite that same way before, but it was really like, we're going to go out past the edges of the known. But I guess you were also like, well, this guy made Blackwatch. That's really, you have
some trust.
Gifted as hell.
Yeah.
But also there must have been a way that he talked about things, and the way that there was.
And Cherry too. And I wish I had, my phones since then have been, but Cherry left me this voicemail that I forever would like, hello, Zach, it's Cherry. And like, just sort of like her magnetism of like, absolutely no pressure, but like, I would love to have you.
It's pretty good Cherry Jones you serving me.
Yeah, I love me some Cherry Jones.
So walk us through from that initial spark of that conversation. It's so fucking fascinating. You are a barrel full of surprises. So you had that initial spark with that conversation with John Tiffany, and the spark was the sort of like, I don't know, the uncertainty of what it would be, but the interest in
finding
it together. And then walk us through the path to the moment. We're really interested in that creative life cycle.
Path, yeah.
How did you get to the moment when you finally like served it up to the people? How was that process for you?
It was magical.
That production was goddamn magic.
I also decided in conjunction with, because there was a little part of me, because, we knew that the production in Cambridge was going to be enhanced by Broadway producers. So we knew that there was the vague possibility that if it did well there, that it could have life beyond it, but that it wasn't a guarantee and that it wasn't why we were doing it. But I did use it as the moment of decision to leave LA. So I'd been living in LA for 12 years at this point, and I thought, well, I'm going to go do this play in Cambridge, and I'll finish in about March, and then I'm going to move to New York. I'm going to keep my house in LA and rent it out, but I'm going to sort of use this as a moment to like pack up my life, my animals, get out of my house, and go start to explore life in New York, and whatever that means, we'll figure it out. So there was a kind of larger life moment that was happening at the same time. So when I left LA, it was a real kind of true departure, you know? And I came to New York. I remember we did the first week of rehearsals before the holidays at the Players Club on Gramercy Park. So I stayed for 2 weeks.
How funny that you rehearsed there.
Yeah, we just did like around the table for like
feels for right like for that play.
5 days before the holidays.
That's true.
And so I stayed for 2 weeks at the Gramercy Park Hotel, which is my favorite hotel in New York, with both my dogs, and just had this very like wintry, rich experience of getting into the play. And I remember sitting around that table with Cherry, and by this time Celia Keenan Bolger, who's a true angel of the theater, and Brian J. Smith, and Bob Crowley, who did the sets and the costumes, and Natasha Katz, who did the lights, and Stephen Hoggett, of course, who did the movement, and Nico Muley, who did the music. And I remember sitting around the table, and John played us the music, Nico's music, that would open the show. And we all just were crying in silence listening to this music.
The opening of that show.
Wow.
There was something so
fucking good.
So that was like the beginning of like, oh, this is gonna be something
Yeah.
amazing, no
And then
matter
you were like,
what happens.
But you
know?
intuitively knew you made a good decision.
And then we shipped off to Cambridge for an amazing time of togetherness and celebration and exploration and bourbon. Man, did we?
That's where I came and saw you up there do that.
Yeah, you came like the closing, didn't you?
I don't
the
know.
night before we closed.
Remember.
I think you did. Wasn't Jesse there with you?
It was Jesse, Tyler
was like
Ferguson, name dropping, and Steve Pasquale and I drove up together.
That's
and we all went back to my apartment after.
And we went to your apartment after, and I stayed the night. But I do remember I ate a lot of. I was like, Steve Pasquale, I brought all cheeses of the world for our road trip, and we ate a lot of cheese, and I farted a lot in Steve Pasquale's car.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, cheese in a road
and
trip
also that production was magical. That production was.
Susan farted her way through our magical production of the Glass Menagerie.
It was that
except Steve Pasquale.
Oh my God, that production.
Yeah, it was a real slice.
So it sounds like you knew throughout the course of that creative life cycle that you were in a special room, with special people, making something special together.
Yep.
How excited were you to share that?
Yes, it remains one of the highlights of my career. To bring that production to New York, and to be met with the response that we were met with here was, something I'll always cherish.
Yeah.
And to which I'll always measure other experiences that I have, I think, on some level, because it was my Broadway debut.
Yeah. And it's not always like that.
It's not. No, it's not.
That was a good one.
Do you have challenges and particular struggles that you personally find along this road, just so people can hear a little more of like
creative path?
Yeah, like it's not a straight line, and it's not
it's not always the Glass Menagerie.
It's not always the Glass
Menagerie. And I can actually, an interesting segue would be the decision I made at the end of the Glass Menagerie, which was as magical as that experience was, and as creative a journey as it was, and as successful as that production was, as the time, so we did the production, then there were 5 months off, and I was doing a press tour for the second Star Trek movie. So it was like I did Glass Menagerie in Cambridge, then had like a whirlwind press tour for basically a month and a half, 2 months, and then got resettled in New York, got an apartment, got sort of set my life up, and then went into rehearsal for the Broadway production. And then we did the play on Broadway for 6 months. Excuse me. Hearing made, man. This is so creative of me.
Bless you.
And then we did the production on Broadway for 6 months. And then I needed a job. And I was desperate for a job. Or in my mind, I felt like I've spent all this time on Broadway. Like, what am I going to do? Like, I gotta do a movie. I got to do a movie. And calling my agents saying, like, what's my movie going to be? What's my movie going to be? And rather than allowing the experience of the Glass Menagerie to come to a natural end and give myself a buffer of time to perhaps go away or settle into like what the impact of that experience was, I was hustling so hard for them to get me a movie that they sent me this script for this movie that I remember lying in my dressing room at the Booth Theater reading and saying like, okay, like I could do this. And it was an offer. And this was the thing, like, you know,
straight offer.
Like straight offer. So they're like, we got you this offer to do this movie. It's a studio movie. It's for Fox Studio, whatever. And like, you know, and I was like, okay. And like, I allowed myself to be talked into something that I never should have done.
Interesting.
And the day after I closed the Glass Menagerie, I flew to Berlin to start production on this film movie.
Is this a blind item or are we naming names?
Are we naming?
It's called Agent 47. It's not a great
I've not
moment
seen
in
it.
the cinema.
Okay.
You know, like it was a fine experience, but it was not. There were many red flags that I should have heeded that I didn't because I made a decision that was not based in creative instinct or in an appetite for what I wanted to do or how I wanted to challenge myself. I made a decision based on an appetite to, I don't know, keep up with the Joneses in the industry and like do a studio movie that was like, it didn't serve me. It was you know, it didn't serve me in a way that I feel like had I just breathed into the uncertainty of what came after the Glass Menagerie, something more impactful would have revealed itself.
Did you know it like
the
when?
moment I landed in Berlin? The moment I got there.
Then you're in it. The only way out is through, baby.
It was a true personal disaster.
Have you taken that learning though and marched it into your life now?
I would say so. I would say so.
I feel like I might have witnessed a moment that, an example of obviously you having learning from this. I'll just say, like, I don't know you that well as a person.
I don't know you.
I don't like you. I just met you. Jury's still out on you as a human.
Laura's a dick. Cameron's a fucking dick.
But honestly, I fell a little bit in love with you when I was watching Project Greenlight, and
The Chair.
You made a right? You
The
made
Chair.
a decision.
Not Project Greenlight, but The Chair.
No, on Project Greenlight.
The show that I was on.
Oh.
It's called The Chair.
Oh, sorry. It's the evolution of Project Greenlight.
It's the same Chris Moore, who was the producer on Project Greenlight, made that show. But it's called The Chair.
Okay.
Do you want to start that again?
Yeah. No, I don't mind saying that. Okay. I mean, unless do you want me to say it?
I don't care.
Yeah, I don't care. You know what? We make mistakes, people.
We do.
This is an imperfect
It's called
podcast.
The Chair, but I thought all along I was watching Project Greenlight. That's the truth. So, you know
The
what?
whole time.
Nana thought she was watching Wheel of Fortune.
Oh, I love the show. And also, just to add to that, I was probably 3 years after it actually aired.
Right.
You know, I just stumbled upon it on Amazon. I was like,
cool.
I used to like that. I didn't know you were a part of it, but as I was watching, for all you listeners, Zachary made a decision on that show where he had to tell everyone involved and the young filmmaker that you were stepping off. You did not want to put your name off.
I took my name off. So the premise of that show is a documentary series that, in the vein of Project Greenlight, Project Greenlight follows a script through development into production, and this show basically gave a script to two filmmakers, a script that was already written, to two filmmakers, first-time filmmakers, feature directors, and allowed them to do a rewrite on the script to reflect the story that they wanted to tell, but using the same sort of plot points and sort of general version of the characters. And then with the same set of resources, meaning schedule and budget, they had to go make their version of the film. And we documented the experience of them shooting the film. We also executive produced both of those films. And then it was sort of a competition that the final product was then sort of judged. And there were a few things about that show. I thought it was a really interesting idea. I thought the format of it worked really well, and I thought it could have been something significant under different circumstances.
That's
and
right,
one of those circumstances was that we inherited one of the filmmakers. Like, we weren't a part of the selection process to choose this one young filmmaker who ultimately I just really did not... I did not jive with his vision or his style or his manner. And I felt like the product, the end product that he made was for me, it was untenable. It was not something that I could sanction. And through all of the efforts of me trying to kind of guide him and steer him and give him notes away from what he ended up making, he ended up making what he made. And I didn't feel comfortable with my name on the project as an executive producer, so I took it off.
You made like a lifelong fan and supporter from that, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. Like, they only dedicated maybe 30 seconds to it on the show, but I was like,
it was much more dramatic in real life.
But it took my breath away because I think we all make those decisions, and maybe we get halfway down the river and we're like, shit, I should not be in this canoe with you. I'm jumping ship. And I have felt that way on a much smaller scale. Like, how do I tell these people? Some are my friends, some are not. How do I say, like, I can't see my name on that because our name is what we have. Yeah. And Susan and I got to talking about that, and that led us to talking about your like sense of clarity, your sense of self that you obviously have developed over time, and the ability to voice tough decisions.
That's nice. I mean, it is something that comes with age. I'll tell you that, and knowing myself more, and loving myself more as well. Yeah, I think.
Yeah,
it's impressive.
It shows.
That is sparkish to me. That's really sparkish, inspiring behavior.
Yep.
What's the biggest, just to use as a departure point for discussion, what is the biggest deal, like the highest, most visible thing you've ever done?
Probably Star Trek.
Okay. Using Star Trek as an example, one of my favorite games to play is. We know what it looks like on the outside. It looks like this very, just speaking for myself, this very like beloved, exciting, polished sci-fi action,
screaming fans,
franchise, screaming fans, red carpet, like looks great. It feels great to watch it. Like, I know what it looks like on the outside.
That's pretty much what it is.
How does it feel on the inside?
That one feels like that.
It feels like that on the inside.
I mean, that's for me.
Interesting.
There's nothing but joy that I associate with that experience.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Is it hard work?
Sure. Yeah, of course.
I see you do some of that shit at we've talked about this before, but like fight scenes and things that would make me super scared and anxious. You have said to me stuff about like you prepare, you learn those pieces of fight choreography, you prepare for a long time, you get in there, they change it day of filming. And I was like, does that make you insane? Does that make you nervous? And you were like, not really. And I was like, what superpowers are working inside of you? Like,
I don't know. I mean, on something like that with, $100+ million budgets, you're really surrounded by like the top of the top. And when you're working with somebody like J.J. Abrams, there's no sort of stone left unturned in terms of like, and you have time. Like, there's not a lot. I mean, there is pressure when you're making those movies, but you have the fight sequence, the biggest fight sequence that I've done in the franchise so far was in the second film. And it was like I think we had 11 days of principal photography to catch that. And then there were 5 or 6 days
Benedict Cumberbatch?
Yeah. There were 11 days of principal photography and then like 5 or 6 days of B units. So there were like 17 days to get
that fight.
Yeah, to get like a 3 or 3 minute thing.
And all those days you're like, I love being here. I love this work and I love my job. Or are you like, this is day 72
Well,
of this?
Sure. I mean, the ups and downs of any kind of experience that is fully immersive and really taxing and really demanding of both physical and mental energy comes with pockets of resistance, but by and large, I mean, the sense of gratitude for being involved in that world and being able to be a part of telling those stories far outweighs any sense of annoyance or kind of like detachment from wanting to be there. You just pull yourself up by your bootstraps and do the fucking work. Like, that's what you're there for.
It just occurred to me, if you have 72 days to film a complex fight scene, are you taking it in small enough chunks that you're like, we're going to do this thing?
Well, it depends, because you have to do
the masters
and you have to do wider angle shots of the whole fight, or at least bigger chunks of the fight, and then you get into more close contact stuff as well. So you're doing it a lot of different ways, a lot of different times. You doing it for, there's helicopters that come. Oh, it's New York City.
Oh,
okay, we welcome it.
But
do you feel like you are able, here's a question, are you able to insert any of your own creativity in that, or are you really?
Well, with a fight, it's much more about the choreography. Yes, you can infuse that choreography with your own perspective on like what's motivating the character in that moment. But by and large, it's like, I don't want to die, so I need to fight my ass off. And
It sounds great. You're right. It sounds great.
I love that. Love it.
But I love what you're saying, which is in that example, which is, that's a big fucking deal. Those movies, it feels what it looks like on the outside. It feels that there's a satisfaction and a joy, and you really love those people and your collaborators on the.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like when you can line up what it looks like on the outside and what it feels like on the inside, there's like authenticity in there.
That's the dream right there.
That's the dream.
For sure.
That's the dream. Good job.
Zachary, what is it that you need to do before you're done? Like, is there anything that you're like, I won't be done until I do?
Yeah. What's the big idea? Get a big idea. Something
like
you need to
this.
bring to life.
Well, I mean, Sweeney Todd is that thing for me in a lot of ways. Honestly, I really feel like that's something I have to be able to do in my life. I just have to keep working. I mean, I just have to keep working. I know that's kind of like a general response, but it's
sense.
like I have to do more theater. I have to just do more theater. I have to do more theater at a level of real consistency and excitement. And, honestly, and I say this and I say it half jokingly, but I really do mean if I could cultivate the same level of experience and living for myself, doing only theater, then you'd never see me on film or TV.
I feel you.
Never.
Wow.
I would only do theater.
I love that about you.
If I could go from play to play to play to play to play, I would. Starting today. If you told me right now you can never do another film or television job as long as you live, but you can do as much theater as you want for the rest of your life, I would sign on the dotted line without even blinking an eye.
Wow.
No question.
Wow.
See, you know where your heart is. You're very
That's
clear.
right. You're very clear.
You're very clear. Is there anything you want to make? I'm leading the witness counselor. Is there anything you want to make?
We've talked about this. I mean, I would love to direct. I would love to find my way to that. And I've been really opening
you'd be a
myself
good
up to
director.
that a lot more lately.
I think you'd be good at that.
Especially on the film side of things. I've been really like, in terms of my Spark file, like I've been really like going into the like sources of inspiration for me. I was just in Spain, and it really reconnected me to my love for Almodovar. So I came back.
Yeah, you said that. You've been watching those
I watched
films.
like 5 Almodovar movies in the last 5 days, and like really getting into like the vision of geniuses like him. He's such an amazing filmmaker. It's crazy what he's able to tap into and how he brings others. So I mean, talk about like a spark file, right? Like probably my favorite Almodovar movie, although I haven't seen the entire filmography. I've seen many of his films and all the heavy hitters, but and a lot of the early ones too. But I think one of my favorites is definitely Talk to Her. And Talk to Her opens with like a 3 or 4 minute sequence of Pina Bausch.
Yes,
it opens with another artist's work.
That's right.
That's how the movie opens.
Yeah.
And like Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown has a whole through line of all about Eve. And Cayetano Veloso shows up and Talk to Her and does just a whole he's an artist who's like, I am inspired by these people. And not only am I going to honor their source of inspiration, I'm just going to put them in my movies and use them as part of this pastiche that I'm creating, which is so unique in terms of then how it applies to his voice, which is so singular and powerful and human, for all of the failings of humanity. And Talk to Her is a prime example of that. He does not shy away from that darkness and from bringing the beauty that's the counterpoint to that darkness into the work. And that Siren agrees.
And that
Siren says, yes,
like, yeah.
I feel like I just want to, as you talk about things that you'd like to make, maybe directing in your lifetime, I want to just remind you, you have so many good sparks just in your family history, in your, even generationally.
Well, even this conversation has been real sparky for me. I'm really grateful to you for having me talk about this stuff because I see what you
Likewise.
mean. I see what you
Oh
mean.
my gosh. I'm glad you do,
so
because even like the
excited.
flu in your family,
Someone needs to make that.
your love of theater and the way that Almodovar is bringing Pina Bausch and putting it on the screen. I can imagine a way that you take that love of theater and your love of certain theater artists, and you do, that your movie begins with a 3-minute piece that John Tiffany and Stephen Hoggett, you know what I mean? Like I can really, this gives me feelings, that gives me visceral feelings on your behalf.
I love
for
that.
what it's worth.
I think we might be about to wrap, but I have one little question I want to ask you. I have a question that follows me around and probably has my whole life and kind of knocks me upside the head when I least expect it. Just rattles around in there. And I want to ask you that question. The question in my head is, what's it all for?
What's it all for?
What is it all for? I feel like it's all for love. On some level or another, it has to be all for love. It's so easy to get caught up in our circumstances, but if we can separate from them to any degree, I feel like we can be connected to something that's bigger than us. So it's all for love. It's all for connectivity.
Yes.
It's all for lineage. Like I am such a believer in the idea that like when we leave this earth, where does our creative spirit go? It doesn't just die with us, or else creativity wouldn't exist. So I really do believe in this, like this kind of realm of connectivity that exists beyond us as individuals, but it embodies in us as individuals. And so we're serving something that has been served by Tennessee Williams, by, Pina Bausch, by George Gershwin, by, people who were Betty Davis, like the greats of our time in the creative world. Like these are people that were struggling with the same things and who are dogged by the same questions that we are. And we're all part of this same miracle that is humanity. And so I feel like it's about honoring that on some level and, trusting that it'll take us where we're meant to go. I watched this film, which it's truly, it's called Capernaum, Capernaum, Capernaum. And it is one of the most, I just watched it last night, and it's one of the most, it was in Cannes last year and it won the Palme d'Or for Best Actress Award and Best Actor and the Palme d'Or. Like I didn't know of it. I just, it was,
I've never heard of it.
In terms of perspective and understanding how easy it is for us to get caught up in these things that to so many people on this planet are unfathomable. Like, oh, I didn't get the job, I didn't get the movie, like,
I didn't get Lorenzo's oil.
I didn't get Lorenzo's oil, or I, like this is a film about a 12-year-old boy who is total. I mean, like the circumstances of his life are just literally unimaginable, and like a film about his spirit, a film about his obstacles. I mean, I want to know everything about this filmmaker and this film. I'm late to the party. It came out last year, but I'm so grateful to see it because it really makes me understand that what's it all for is like to somehow appreciate why we're here and to appreciate how fucking lucky we are and to not lose sight of that gratitude. Because our circumstances, I mean, we are so beyond privileged. And it's so easy to lose.
That we get to have this conversation.
Yes, it's so easy to lose sight of that and to be like, well, when I had a car accident when I was 16 in my mom's car that I crashed, like, then I wanted to be an actor. Like, what? Like, this is there are people in this world who literally, cannot even figure out how to, survive the day without being, incarcerated, imprisoned, persecuted, deported, raped, murdered, it's, and so I guess I just feel like it's all for gratitude as well. We all have to be grateful for what we have because it could it could all fucking just evaporate in the blink of an eye.
Oh my God.
Anyway, not to get too heady or heavy.
I love it.
You can shape that as you will.
I was going to ask, my final question was, what is sparking you right now? Like, to share a spark? I think you just did.
I've been really diving into films that are not on the like homepage of my Apple TV. You know what I mean? Going back to Almodovar, going back to things that I'm like, I have to make a little bit of
Capernaum.
I have to make a little investment in these stories and to be inspired and moved and challenged. It
is a conscious act. It's a conscious investment. We talked about that. Like we have been training ourselves doing this podcast too, moving through the world with our eyes, our ears, our hearts, our minds open, and really actively, and it is a goddamn privilege, actively seeking those things that will spark us.
Yeah. We live in privileged town.
God, I love you.
Me too.
Wow. I hope that this put another bunch of sparks in y'all's spark file. If there's a spark that you would like us to explore, or if you've been moved to make something and you'd like to share that with us, won't you please email us at thesparkfile@gmail.com, or you can submit it through our website. And be sure to subscribe to this kettle of nonsense wherever you get your kettles of nonsense. Subscribe, 5-star rate it, review it. If you like this poo cat, share it with people you love. If you don't like it, let's just forget this ever happened.
If something did tickle your fancy and gets your creative juices flowing, it's your turn now to take that little spark and fan it into a flame.
You got to reboot it. You got to shoot it. You got to crop it. You got to Photoshop it. You just got to take it and make it. Bye. We love you, Zachary. Quinto.
Love you.
Love you.
Totally love you. Legit love you now.
I'm happy to be on the spark.
Let's make it.
When I bump into something that inspires me, I dump it in my spark file. Could be something that I wanna make or how I wanna be. I pump it in my spark file. I jump into my spark file. Let's open up the spark file.
Hi, friends. Susan Blackwell from the Spark File here to let you know that the doors are open for the Spark File Illume, a 9-month group creativity coaching mastermind that invites you to be the chief creative officer and chief marketing officer of your creativity. But what does that mean? That means in 9 months in Illume, you will clarify and advance your big creative goals and learn how to effectively share your work with the world. Now, if you're listening to this and you're an experienced creative or an accomplished professional who seeks a space where it is safe to attempt something you've never tried before, or complete a big creative project, or take your work to the next level and acquire the skills needed to share your creative work with the world, Illume might be right for you. We are calling in emotionally intelligent, high-functioning creatives who are ready to level up. You can find out more by going to thesparkfile.com/Illume, but do it now to find out if Illume is right for you and to save with early bird discounts. That's thesparkfile.com/Illume. Take a leap, take a risk. Go to thesparkfile.com/Illume and join us for Illume.